everybody. It's Thursday.
And welcome to this week's edition of the Night Bite.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Emily. And we're laughing because we actually just realized that we are practically neighbors with the awesome guest that we have for you tonight. So we are really excited to share that with you. But in a minute, not yet. So to those of you at home, thank you for taking your time and joining us. We're excited to be here with you as well. Mm-hmm. We have kind of a unique show. So if you have questions or comments along the way, or even ahead of time because you read our little description and know what we're going to talk about, leave those questions there, and we would love to get to all of that. Yeah. Or on the other hand, if you go bow fishing all the time, let us know that as well. If you just like to use a traditional rod and reel, like most of us, let us know what your water temperatures are or how fishing has been for you, because, that heat has settled in and fish, went to that spring pattern and then right out to that summer pattern. Mm-hmm. So depending on where you're at, fish might be doing different things lately. Yeah.
And, if you don't catch our show here, we did start a fishing report on the YouTubes. So if you check out Crappie Junction YouTubes, we'll be putting out a fishing report every Monday. And also, don't forget to click the little bell button up here in the corner and make sure that you catch all of our shows.
That's true. Alrighty. Oh, actually, with that, also, because if you do not catch our show, and you're one of those people going on a summer road trip, this is also now turned into a podcast.
Yes, there's the Night Bite podcast, so you can download that on all your favorite podcast platforms, whatever you do. I use the Google Play, but a lot of people use Spotify, whatever you use. So we're out there. You can listen to us if you want. There you go.
And there you go. So any of our past guests and the shows that we've had with them. And if you have suggestions for the future, let us know that as well, because we would love to talk to the people that you want to talk to also. Mm-hmm. With that being said, let's bring in our guest.
All right.
So welcome to the show, Hunter Engelman.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for being here. Honestly, we're excited to have you here because you're one of my favorite people to bump into at the shows and expos, and we didn't have that this year, so we are excited to be with you now.
I'm ready to catch back up.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So first question is always the hardest one. Can you tell us about yourself?
Sure. So as you already know, my name is Hunter Engelman. I am 22 years old. I'm the owner and operator of Modified Outdoors Bowfishing Charters. We reside in southeastern Wisconsin, kind of right by Lake Winnebago area. I'm in the 5th year of 5 for my electrical apprenticeship program through the union in Milwaukee. So during the day, I'm a Sparky, but once it gets dark and it goes to nighttime, I become a bow fisherman. So I got a couple faces, couple different hats that I wear, but I absolutely love it.
That's excellent. And right down in that Winnebago area, that is a great, beautiful place to be. And so if you have never tried bow fishing, I imagine that's a good place to go. So for somebody who is totally a novice, where do you start?
So for me, when I started sophomore year of high school. I had a friend that had a boat. We read a few fishing reports in the area, but the biggest thing in my area, I live right by the Kettle Moraine State Forest. So basically every lake around me has carp, every river system. And it's not only carp that we're targeting. Like we're able to shoot all the different types of suckers. We can even shoot catfish and bullhead. We can eat them. There's a large variety of fish that we can shoot. So the biggest thing is finding, getting the time to get out on the water, really any lake, river system, body of water by you. Best thing is just get out there and see what you can see. It's a great starting point to get out on the water and get your eyes on there. Cause reading the internet and reading the forums and everything, it can only do so much for you.
And then as somebody who plans to go out and shoot their bow, at the water, or maybe at some fish, can you just find any body of water and pull up on the shore and shoot there? Or where do you find out the regulation on that?
Most of them. So the Wisconsin DNR has a few variances with their regulations opposing other states. I'd say 98, 99% of the body of water you find you can shoot. Now, there is one very unique thing with us being so close to Lake Winnebago. Because most of the bow fishing I do when I guide, I do it all during the nighttime. There are sometimes you got to sometimes look at the town. If you have a lake within a city, like Fond du Lac is within Lake Winnebago area, there's actually town ordinances that restrict the amount of noise you can have. So sometimes a generator, or if you have an airboat or some type of air propulsion, that might be too loud for the city ordinance, and you can actually be fined for that.
That's a really interesting point. That is assuming that somebody has like a set up boat. For somebody who is a novice, maybe if you have like a quiet little boat that you're going to sneak around, I guess you still have to power your light setups. But is this something that you can do from shore?
Oh, absolutely. And that's how I started. He got me hooked on the boat, and I automatically got my bow, and I hit the rivers. I hit the streams looking for those little white suckers that I would always find. And I'm sure if you guys have ever seen a sucker spawn before, it's nuts. You can basically go up and grab them. So that's kind of how I got started with it. And by all means, like the rig that I have now, I mean, I would have laughed at my first rig if that pulled up at the boat launch. I mean, we started with a 12-foot flat front John boat with a little 30-horse or a 30-pound Minn Kota, and we had little handheld flashlights. So you had to balance. You had to hold the flashlight in your mouth, pointing into the water as you drew back. We've come a long ways since then, but
but I'd love to hear that story though, because I think honestly that applies to so many people, especially people who are new to the sport. You're not going to have all of the great equipment that does make it so easy and accessible to get out there. So that is really lucky that you have that. And I think, part of that setup, we have Steve Schaefer checking in. So, hey there, Steve. It says that Hunter's awesome, that he's been out with him. So you are a really fun person. And to have this setup to go with it is a really, really great thing. Steve is also mentioning that you filmed a show with Larry.
Yeah, Larry Smith Outdoors. I'm sure you guys have heard of him before.
Well, we may
once
have
or twice. Yeah.
Yeah.
We love Larry and his whole crew. They're great people.
Very great.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my goodness. So, in Wisconsin and Midwest and gosh, beyond, outdoor lovers, a lot of people out there have a bow, shoot bow. Is that something that you can just take your existing bow and go bow fishing?
Oh, absolutely. A lot of people start with, you could go to any archery shop, and a lot of them have those those older, bigger compound bows for like $10, $20. It's perfect. Because by all means, I would never suggest taking your deer hunting, your fancy Matthews, your Vexus, all those fancy bows. They get banged around out on the boat. So I'd highly suggest a used old bow that you don't really care about. One that you can throw around, because we put our equipment through the ringer. That is for sure.
So let's say that you go and you get some, cheap, good equipment. How do you take that from there to bow fishing?
Yeah, so there are one of the biggest things about bow fishing is, like, I'm gonna just refer to the Wisconsin state rules because that's what I know best.
Sure.
Starting from the beginning, you need very specific arrows for bow fishing. So you have to have a solid arrow. Typically, we'll use fiberglass, and actually, those road plows, the marker stakes for your driveway.
Oh yeah.
That's the exact diameter and size that we use.
Oh, that's really funny.
A little bit shorter, but a solid fiberglass shaft is what we use. And the second part of it is you need to have barbs on your arrow that allow for penetration and not removal. So you can't use your Rage broadhead out on a carp.
So tell us why. I know it sounds obvious, but why can you not do that?
Yeah, so the reason why you're not allowed to do that is you got to get that fish, and you got to get the arrow back in. So what these arrows are designed to do, they're small barbs that face backwards towards the arrow. So you go through the fish, and the barbs will kind of rotate out, and it'll just provide some holding power, holding that fish onto the shaft and allow you. That's the second part, is you need means for retrieval. you can you have to have a string or some type of line or a rope attached to the bow and attached to the arrow so you can retrieve those things back in once you shoot.
Yeah, because that is the thing is bow fishing is not a catch and release sport.
Exactly.
And arrows certainly the same thing. If you're going to shoot it out there, you do want to retrieve that and not just have a bunch of them sitting out there, because that would be annoying and you would lose all of your arrows.
Exactly. Yeah, you go through arrows pretty quick.
Yeah. So, I mean, like when you get to the launch and you're all set up, or I mean, I guess that's true. You need your arrows and you need the line that's attached to it. And then I see in the stores, there's all different kinds of kits and they have like reel attachments and all of that. So is that something that somebody would need?
Oh yeah. You've got to, you really have to get yourself kind of in tune. Typically, if you go to a store like that, ask the professional that's there. Ask him his experience, because there's dozens and dozens of different types of, we call them retrievers. There's the one that I use that I recommend is the AMS. They're like the largest bow fishing company, I guess you could say, in terms of retrievers. They're the easiest to use, easiest to learn, and they're extremely safe. So that's why I go that route. You could even, it sounds a little janky, but a closed face reel that you could use for fishing, if you put larger line on it, you could attach it to your bow and you could use that.
That's actually
That's
awesome.
really all it takes.
But yeah, I love your theory though, because you could like go around garage sailing this weekend and pick up all of these items and build it and get out doing this.
Oh yeah, and a lot of people start those retrievers. They are relatively pricey, but that's like the largest thing, the priciest thing you need to purchase, because that's going to determine, kind of how your trip goes. But they do have, a lot of people start out, believe it or not, they just use a regular, like you could even use a Gatorade bottle. Mm-hmm. You could attach the Gatorade bottle to your bow, and you can just wrap the line around the Gatorade bottle. And then when you shoot, the line will spin off the bottle.
Yep.
There you go. That's pretty cool.
It's an extremely cheap option that you could probably have the stuff laying around at home.
Well, and I imagine if you go to YouTube and you type in like DIY bow fishing, that, a whole bunch of videos will pop up. Some good ideas and maybe some not.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. But in contrast, that's not at all what like a charter out with you is, or what it's like. No. So, tell us about kind of the other end of that. What does a nice trip out look like?
Sure. So, let me take a step back. So the reason some of you may wonder why we have the name Modified Outdoors, what caused that? And for me, starting out, there were a lot of misconceptions about bow fishing in general. It sounds like a really redneck way of doing things. Like you gotta be pretty far away from anything normal to be shooting arrows at fish. So the goal of Modified Outdoors is to modify perceptions. So with our personalities, our environment, and the equipment that we use, we like to provide a very high-class environment out there. So that means using the highest technology when we're out there, the safest equipment, a very high energy when we're out there. So even, this spring I had a couple flying from Utah that saw me on Facebook from the biggest city in Utah, Salt Lake City, and have never bowfished before, have never done anything outdoors.
Oh, wow.
And they were probably my most fun group ever, because they were so novice to the sport and I love that. I love if you don't know what's going on, I love getting the opportunity to kind of explain things to you and get you to kind of see things from how I do, because I have a crazy passion for the sport, and me being able to display that is a big part of what I do.
It's really, really great to hear. I don't know if I call it like your open-mindedness to it, because one of the things I know about bow fishing is it's not at all like just shooting a bow at a target because of the water
Okay.
and the way that it refracts things. And so when you go out there and you take your first shot, I don't know, maybe you are like a natural born expert and that would be super cool. But I imagine that most people are not, because it's not quite what you expect. So when you have to take a few minutes to learn something new in front of somebody, that can be intimidating. But when you're not, that's really cool.
Exactly. And that's, that's another big thing is a lot of people, I'm not going to lie. Some people have gone out and their first shot, they have gotten the fish. First shot, never shot a bow in their life.
That's so cool.
We managed to get one. But yeah, it's very difficult because you would think it's very simple. You'd think there's the fish, I'm going to shoot fish. But like you said, with the refraction, your eyes lie to you. Same thing with fishing is where that fish looks like it is not where it is. So we actually don't use sights on our bows. It's all instinctive shooting. You actually look right down the arrow because there can be a time where the fish is super shallow and you have to aim below the fish. You could aim an inch or two below the fish, or if the fish is deep and it's far away from the boat, you could be aiming upwards of 4 to 5 feet below the fish.
Yep.
So every single shot is different. There's no shot that's consistently the same. So there's a huge learning curve to it. But I guarantee you, by the end of the night, you're gonna have a really good idea of what's going on and what you need to do to get as close as you can to that fish.
Well, and I can attest to what Hunter's saying here. So when I first started bow fishing, I was in college, and I was fishing from shore, and I happened to be bow fishing off the sidewalls of a dam. And so I have probably, 7 feet till the water's edge. I'm standing on the weir, and then it's probably 20 feet of water. And it just happened that this river was a pretty clear river, didn't have much tannins to it or anything. And I saw a quillback. And if nobody knows what a quillback is, if you're a saltwater person, it's kind of like a pompano. And if you're a freshwater person that doesn't know what a quillback is, it's kind of like a silver sunfish, but it has this big, huge dorsal ray on it. And they're about the same size as a bluegill. So they're only like this thick, and they're like this big around. And I saw him, and he looked like he was about that big. And like he said, I had to shoot like 4 feet under him because he was so far down in the water, like he was sitting on the rocks. And I never thought I had a chance. And you just, like you said, it's instinctive. You just take your best guess. And I got it. And it was really nice. It was like that big. And that's really big for a quillback.
Yeah,
but it was so fun.
Yeah, so there's actually a few rivers. Now that you mentioned that quillback carp sucker, there's actually a few rivers we can actually target them. There's a few river systems, and we've actually found near Milwaukee, there's one river system we like to go to. We've found them upwards of 8 to 9 pounds.
Wow.
And let me tell you, when those things are the most agile fish we've ever shot. When they take off, and it's the crazy cool part about it is they have that long dorsal fin.
Yeah.
So if they take off out of the shoreline, it looks like a shark with its top fin out of the water, just racing away from you.
That's so cool.
That is really funny. Well, and then the other thing that's interesting about that is, you think about a fish like that swims, like crazy, or, a carp can get huge, when you're shooting at that. So, the fight coming in, I imagine, is pretty crazy.
Yeah, it definitely depends on where that arrow makes contact. So if you, I call it unicorning the fish. But if you happen to get the chance to shoot the fish straight down and the arrow goes, call it right between the eyes, you turn them into a unicorn. That fish is lights out, and it kind of floats up to the surface, and then it's dead weight. But certainly, if you get a big fish and you make contact in the tail or like the center mass of the body, oh yeah, they take off. It's it can get pretty sporty, especially, these carp can get upwards of 30, 40 pounds.
Wow.
It is crazy.
Oh yeah.
And I think people don't necessarily realize the kind of fish that are that big that live like in their local waters. That really is a big fish.
Oh yeah, we've had people come up to us at the launch because normally during the summertime there'll be people out on the shores having bonfires, kind of enjoying themselves, and they ask to see what we catch. And I hold up this 30-pound common carp, and they go, "No way that lives in our lake." I'm like, yeah, like we've been shooting them all night. So.
That's really funny. Oh my goodness. So, I mean, as far as doing all that shooting at night, I have a few questions about that. So your light setup, you were saying, you first went out, you were holding flashlights in your mouth. I mean, but you see sometimes boats with like huge setups. So, what is the right setup for that?
So, my ideal setup, I started with high pressure sodiums, basically the lights that you see in a parking lot, those big yellow lights. That's what I started with. A lot of power. They took a lot of power to power them. So that required a big old generator it would rattle your skull. You had to like shout just to hear the person next to you. So for me, what I've found, we actually have 2 boats for our charter service now. My other co-captain, Jacob, kind of runs and maintains the second boat. Through our experiences, the 5 years I've been doing it and the 3 for him, we found the best setup is an LED light. I found a company called Outrigger Outdoors. They actually make a 24-inch light bar. And so that it draws 120 watts of power, which you could run 5 of these light bars compared to one of those big parking lot lights. So I actually have 13 of these light bars. So I'm pushing out around 250,000 lumens of light. So
That's
it's
crazy.
incredible. It looks like a UFO floating on the water if you're on the shoreline. It sure
So does the light bring fish in, or do you sneak up on them?
I get that question a lot. And, sometimes we're floating in the middle of the lake and turn the lights on, and all of a sudden we see a fish pop up out of nowhere. So I suppose there may be an angle like that, but primarily we'll use we'll use the lights to target, to find the fish. So during our charters, we're always moving. We're always cruising around the shorelines, just going in and out of piers, finding the sand flats, finding the weed lines, really anywhere we can, just going in and out, trying to figure out where the fish are hiding out. And then once we find where they're at, then we'll stick with that type of bottom, that pattern throughout the rest of the trip.
That can be a lot of fun to, navigate that. One thing that I'm thinking all about, though, is when you have that much light at night, you have a situation of bugs. So how do you deal with that, or how do you tell your clients to deal with that?
Yeah, so as much as I'm ready for this COVID stuff to be over, I always keep masks in the boat. Those neck gaiters that I pull out, I always, it gets bad. Like when we shoot like Green Bay area, those large bodies of water, you're swallowing protein. If you talk too long and you keep your mouth open, they find their way in. So we like to keep the masks up over our nose. Then we'll even pull them up over our ears because they like to find their way in the ears too.
Gross.
But really, it's crazy. The bugs will only last for about an hour to an hour and a half, right at sunset. Then they're gone. So it is really difficult in the beginning because they also block a lot of light. When there's swarms of them like that, it makes it difficult to see past them. So after that first hour and a half, it really opens up, and then it turns into just a beautiful, calm, quiet night most of the time.
That's probably a really unique thing to experience, going. The bugs get really intense, and then to have a calm down like that, I imagine that's a whole lot of fun. As far as, do you find bug spray to be enough, or is there something specific that you wear, just jeans or?
Yeah, so typically like a thin longs, like in summer months here, I've got a super thin pair of sweatpants that I wear, and then a thin long sleeve shirt over the top. So something thin, breathable, because make no mistake, when you're out there, your adrenaline is pumping faster than most people will probably ever feel their adrenaline pump.
Yeah.
It's so hard to explain without getting to take you out, but there's still times when my heart's pumping faster than I think it's going to come out of my chest. And so it's really an incredible feeling when you're chasing these fish and say you miss and the fish is sitting there. It's a 20-pound big fat common. It's just sitting there and you have to reel your line up and the fish is sitting there. So as fast as you can get the arrow in, get it back on the bow and take another shot. It's hard to express that feeling. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, so exciting. I'm like getting excited listening just to your story. I'm like, oh, let's go. You did say that you are scouting water tonight. So as far as being a guide, there's a lot that goes into that. You're talking about prepping people and teaching them all about how to do this, finding the fish. And then you have a whole load of fish at the end of the night. So, what do you do with some of those fish?
So that's a really good question. I get that question a lot. So legally in the state of Wisconsin, there are some states that allow something called slit and sink, which allows you to basically cut the belly of the fish open, pop that air sac, and then drop that fish back in the water so it sinks to the bottom. Wisconsin doesn't allow that. Now, if you harvest the fish, you have to take the fish out of the body of water, and you can actually be fined if you return the fish back to the waterway. So what I like to do, believe it or not, I have a farmer about half a mile down the road he's a pumpkin farmer. And so he has a lot of skid loaders and a lot of moving machinery and equipment. So the night after the trip, he actually leaves his skid loader with the bucket up about at the right height of my boat. And we'll get back from the night of fishing. I'll go around his little roundabout in his yard, and I'll pour, because we use trash cans for our barrels for the fish. And we'll pour the barrels out right into the skid loader. And he'll take them. He'll either distribute them into his manure spreader. He'll either distribute them out in the field, or in the springtime before he plants, he'll actually dig holes right around his pumpkin plants and he'll drop them in there because they are the best fertilizer.
I was going to say, I imagine that your garden is probably pretty full of fish already.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh my goodness, that is funny. But if it is something that you're just doing, part-time, here and there, that is something that you could do is, I know we moved into our house and our garden was, pretty demolished from all the years of being there. So putting a little bit of nutrients back in the soil and going bow fishing at the same time, that is a whole lot of fun.
Oh, for sure. And there are a lot of people that when they get out, what I suggest is before you get out bow fishing, as you're purchasing the equipment and you're getting yourself set up, I highly suggest you go to some local farms. You go down the road and just ask them, because everywhere I've gone out to the Mississippi River a couple times. I've traveled a lot of states throughout the country. It only takes like 2 to 3 farmers. And someone says, yeah, go right ahead, throw them in back there. Because there are a lot of people that do disagree with the sport. There's a lot of people that feel it's not the right way to do things. It's cheating, whatever you may have, but they don't agree with it. So the worst thing we can do as sportsmen and as bow fishermen is give them more reasons to not like the sport. So something like that would be, oh, there's a dumpster at the launch. Let's just throw all the carp right in the dumpster at the launch. Like, that won't smell. No.
Yeah.
So,
that's think of even just what one lost bait container will do,
Yeah.
and then you have a whole load of carp like that. No way.
Yeah, it's really, and unfortunately, with the charter service, we do have a lot of calls. A lot of people know and recognize the boat, my name, my phone number, the website. So there have been times where I'm actually a representative of one of the regions in the state of Wisconsin for our Bow Fishing Association. So I work closely with a lot of the region representatives, the DNR officials, the wardens, everyone in the area. So a lot of people know me, and if there's a problem, if something goes wrong, I'm normally the one that gets the call. If someone leaves fish at the launch, they say, hey, I know it wasn't you, but can you swing over here and pick them up? And I do, because something like that, that's gas on someone's fire. Ready for someone to reduce nighttime bow fishing. Like if they really don't want people to nighttime bow fish on their lake, it's just fuel for their fire, and I can't be giving that to them.
Well, and I think that's, a common theme in the show that we talk about a lot is just, respect to other anglers or respect to the environment. A lot of times we talk about the river, the bumper boats in spring, but I mean, I think this kind of kindness and respect, goes a really long way and, applies to kind of all different aspects of the sport. So, and even other sports, bow fishing.
For sure.
Well, and one of the things that people should realize is that once fish like that, like once carp and some of those other rough fish get to a certain size, they don't have any predators. There's nothing that's going to eat a 30-pound carp. And so it's more of a management thing. It's just like if you had a bunch of stunted bluegills in a pond and you threw a bunch of bass in there to just eat the bluegills, you can think of Hunter as the bass. He's just eating all the big carp.
I'm your bass. I'll be your bass.
And he's obviously, there's no way that even, a town of bow fishermen could clean out an entire body of water of carp because they start out as baby fish. So you can only get so many shootable until you're out of shootable ones, but there's still those in there.
Uh-huh.
And then they come back and they're very prolific. And it's a sustainable sport, and especially when people like Hunter are able to utilize their kill, bring it new life in the forms of produce or what have you. That's a really cool thing.
Absolutely, yeah. It's I have a very unique opportunity with what I do, especially as a guide. Is as I mentioned before, is the teaching. Like a lot of people, they go, what the heck is bow fishing? And I love it. I'm at the gas station filling up the boat in the truck, and I get a question like that. It's awesome to give them the opportunity. And a lot of times people will have stories. A lot of people will say, when they were kids, they used to go down to the river and they'd have like a pitchfork, and they would stab at the spawning carp. So it's really incredible. I mean, I could talk about bow fishing for, I bet you, 3 days straight. We're really getting into it. It's such a unique sport, and the opportunities I have as a guide really distinguish kind of a lot of other people in the sport. It gives me a little bit more knowledge, not only on my end, but also on how I'm perceived by clients, by competition, by even other landowners, homeowners, other people in the area.
Cool.
So.
And then as far as, if people are thinking about taking a trip, is this something that would be safe to bring their kids on?
Absolutely. I've had kids as young as 9 and 10 years old out shooting fish on the boat. We actually have had people that, I got a chance, if you don't mind, I'd like to tell you a little story.
Yeah.
Last year, I had a lot of issues with my motors. I had some older Johnson and Mercury 2-stroke motors that gave me a lot of fits. Springtime, my kicker broke. It was unfixable. So I went to a marine dealer in my area called Cedar Lake Sales in West Bend.
Yeah.
Big Mercury dealer, and I went to them and they got me a new kicker. And I kid you not, the first night out with my new kicker, my big motor went out. So I got the opportunity for 2 brand new Mercuries in about 2 weeks.
You got the opportunity. Okay, yes.
That's how I look at it.
Yes.
And so with that, the social media manager, her name is Tracy. She had a young son, Conrad. He saw the boat in the parking lot and was, I believe he was 8 years old, 10 years old, absolutely enthralled. And so I actually got the opportunity to take him out, him and his, it was him, his mom, and her dad. So 3 generations out at the boat at the same time. I went out and I actually got to do something that I will never forget. We went to a local lake that I knew there were a lot of bullhead, specifically the yellow bullhead. And legally we're allowed to harvest them with the bow and arrow. And through scouting the last couple of days, I knew there were big bullhead in this lake, bigger than I've ever seen.
That's
so
cool.
I took Conrad and the two other generations out, and that night I was with Conrad. Conrad on my boat shot the new Wisconsin state and youth world record yellow bullhead on the boat. This bullhead, I kid you not, was almost 3 pounds.
Wow.
It looked like a catfish.
Wow.
It was huge. And
That's awesome.
To top that off, I knew they were still in there. A couple days later, I took my girlfriend Caitlin and my mom out, same lake. It was like a Wednesday night. It was a work night. I had work in the morning, wanted to just get out there. And I was the only one shooting. My girlfriend and my mom were just watching, and my mom pointed out this fish. She goes, catfish. I turned, and I kid you not, the biggest bullhead I've ever seen in my entire life. Put Conrad's to shame.
Wow.
I drew back. I don't know how I didn't choke, but I managed to pull this yellow bullhead in the boat. And that was an experience I'll never forget. I pulled it up, and I remember saying, this has got to be a state record. So I looked into it. We got we actually went through all the protocols. We went to a certified scale. I met with a DNR biologist to certify it. It was a purebred yellow bullhead. It wasn't a hybrid of any times. And I believe it came out to 3 pounds, 6 ounces, and it became the new certified Wisconsin DNR state record alternative method yellow bullhead.
Nice.
Wow.
Truly an incredible experience. So if you happen to go on the Wisconsin DNR website and you look in the alternative method, you'll see my name and that bullhead on there.
Nice.
Wow,
And I'll give you a little secret. On there, you have to say which lake it came from. I did not lie. I told exactly the lake I got it from, and you can even know the date I got it on.
Oh.
I feel like I need to look it up. Everyone's like rushing to look up the records right now.
So
the
it's
pictures
amazing.
with it though, you said?
I wish there were pictures. I'll send you a couple.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But yeah, the opportunities, getting to do this for so long. I mean, the crazy opportunities I get, like I never would have thought in a million years I would hold a Wisconsin state record fish. Never would have thought. But
yeah, that's cool.
That's so cool. That's a really great story.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. And I love how it started, that you had youth on board and they got a great fish, and then you did too. I mean, when there's enough good fish like that to go around, that's a really great thing.
Man, and I tell you, the smile on his face when we certified that fish, and I said, Conrad, you hold the Wisconsin state record and youth world record alternative method yellow bullhead. I don't think I've ever seen a smile that big in my entire life.
That's awesome.
It made everything worth it. I mean, I didn't even think about the motors. I spent, you guys know how much those motors cost.
Yeah.
And I went with a 150 horse outboard and a 20 horse kicker.
Nice.
I was so happy at that moment. It didn't matter what money I spent to get out there. It didn't matter. It was so worth it.
That's cool.
Well, I feel like, especially with that story, it's a perfect time to ask, if people are looking to book a trip, how do they do that?
So I have a few different ways to get that. Ideally, we have a website. It's at modifiedoutdoors.com. You can go on there. I actually have a live booking calendar on there. You can see when I'm available, when my other captain is available. You can book right through the website there. We do require a down payment to hold the boat for the night. Otherwise, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, really any way to get a hold of me. I have access to all the calendars, the bookings, my schedule and everything. Text, call me, really at any time. I'd love to. I love talking bow fishing and sharing a little bit of knowledge, and then getting the chance to take new people out, or even experienced people that want to get out and feel what it's like to be on a completely custom 20-foot bow fishing boat, and just kind of get to see things from a different perspective.
That's super cool.
That'd
That's
be
really
fun.
awesome. And I have to say that we actually did a little bit of messaging back and forth, and I noticed that even on your Facebook Messenger, you have a button that says book now. And it brings you right to your webpage. And like you're saying, it is very, very user-friendly, even on mobile. And so if you are on your phone and you are looking to book your trip, that is something that is super possible, even from where you are right now. So that's excellent. And then how is the season looking coming up? Do you have a lot available?
Unfortunately, we're looking pretty booked.
Okay. I mean, that is kind of a good thing too.
Yeah, no, I'm very fortunate with how this season has turned out. I've word of mouth and social media is, being in that age bracket where social media is so utilized. I find boosting an advertisement on Facebook or someone leaving a review and pushing that, it really broadens my horizons. It gets a lot of people interested that would have never even heard of bow fishing. So it gives an opportunity to broaden my horizons. And so where we're looking now, it looks like it's going to be August to September. Typically September, October. So one thing that not a lot of people may know about carp is they actually, they spawn more than once. So in the springtime, your bass, your bluegills, they'll spawn once and then they're done. But the carp, if the water temperatures are right, 2 to 3 times they can reproduce in one season. So it's really amazing how fast they can reproduce. So September, October, when a lot of people think about putting those boats away, and kind of focus maybe even on hunting, that's my time to shine. That's when I get back out there. Those bugs calm down a little bit with the cooler temperatures, but the fish are still plenty active.
Nice.
That's excellent. That actually sounds like I'm going to give you a call. Save me that day when the bugs die down and it's cool weather. Yeah, I want that day. That's awesome. Awesome. So did I miss anything else?
I don't think so.
No, if not, that is okay. And if anybody at home thinks of something that I did not yet think about, if anybody has questions, still drop them in the comments, and we can always get back to answering that or talking about it, or go talk to Hunter because he's a great person. Go and follow him. I was going to say, how can people follow you?
Yeah, so the biggest thing, I love my Facebook. Facebook is at Modified Outdoors. You can look it up there, Modified Outdoors Bowfishing Charters. If you look up my name, I see it's on the screen there. You can, I have it in my description as well. I can get you really any information you need to get started, to book a charter with me, really anything. There's a lot of different ways to get a hold of me. But yeah, the website and the Facebook are the 2 big ones for me.
Awesome.
Excellent. So Hunter, thank you so much for being here with us tonight.
You're welcome. One thing I forgot to mention.
Oh yeah.
With the charter service, we do have. If you two were to say book a charter with me, a lot of people wonder, what do you provide? Like, what do I bring? When you show up, and for me, we shoot southeastern Wisconsin to like eastern Wisconsin. So really all you need is a fishing license and clothes for the night. Nice. I take care of everything.
I'm kidding. I know that's not what you meant.
I don't know about that. But the biggest thing is I provide all the equipment. I have so many bows, compound bows, recurve bows. I have so many different types and styles of bows to all the draw sizes, the draw poundages that you need. So really we like to take about an hour before sunset is when we like to meet at the launch. We go over everything. We like to get you comfortable with that equipment, and we get you dialed in as best as we can. So using that good equipment, getting you prepared and ready for the night. So by the time we turn on the lights, you're set up for success.
That's awesome. Excellent. That's excellent. Perfect. And that's actually really cool to hear. You have all the different draw lengths and, you know, there's so much that goes into the bow setup. And so if you don't have that setup ready to go, if you don't have a bow at all, if you've never experienced that, or maybe you've been through it 100 times and just don't have that ready to go and set up, you know, so that's perfect to have somebody that does.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
All right.
So I guess, you know, thanks for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you guys for having me again. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. And to the people at home, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for participating. And, you know, we're excited, you know, for next week. We do have actually, side note, a vacation coming up to the Chippewa Flowage. And so not next week, but the week after that. And we're not sure how our internet is going to be. And so the status of the show that week is up in the air. It's up in there. So hang tight. We will be with you guys next week. And then we'll let you know about the schedule after that. But otherwise, maybe I'll take a day on vacation and try out some bow fishing. We'll see. I don't know how that'll go.
Give me a call.
Yeah. Otherwise, thanks for being with us on this edition of The Night Bite.
Night, everybody.